Hey everybody, just want to talk to you, give you a little information here. Back in the days of slavery, they had the American slavery in our country. They had what was called plantation owners. Plantations like a big farm where they used to like grow crops. The plantation owner had like a lot of slaves working for them who farmed the land, did all the work for them on the plantation. Now some slaves were considered unmanageable. They were tough to work with. They didn't follow orders as they were supposed to. They didn't conform. They didn't go along very easily. They'd say, no, I'm not doing that. So in those towns, they had people who lived there who were called slave breakers. They weren't necessarily plantation owners, but they were guys who their job in the community was they had developed their reputation by being slave breakers. The slave owner who couldn't control the slave would take the slave to live on the property of the slave breaker for a period of like a year. And almost instantly, when they took the slave and took him to the slave breaker's property, and he was now in charge of that slave, the slave breaker would begin like just brutally punishing him, whipping him, beating him with boards, embarrassing them in front of the other slaves, just all kinds of brutal acts meant to break you down physically, inflict pain, inflict punishment, embarrassment in front of like the other slaves, and just basically meant to break you down, to break your spirit, to make you make the choice, man, this is so painful, this is so bad that I'm just gonna go ahead and listen to what they're telling me to do because I can't take no more pain. And that was the slave breaker's job. And then when they took the slave back after a year, the slave had learned that, hey, the best thing to do here is just to conform, just to go along with the program because I can't take any more of that punishment. So they broke. These people were called the slave breakers, and they were on plantations. I learned about this through reading the narrative book that Frederick Douglass wrote. He was talking about how he was actually taken to live on the plantation of a slave breaker because one of his slave owners felt like he had become unmanageable. When he came back from living in Baltimore, he felt like the city had spoiled him and he was unmanageable, couldn't be controlled. So he took him with this slave breaker. And like Frederick describes right away how like this guy just started whipping him for everything. I mean, to the point where he's just blood running down his back to his legs, through his pants, everything, just brutal punishment. And he says the guy did succeed in breaking him, broke him spiritually, mentally, physically. So this is these people were called slave breakers, and they were around during the slavery times. My question I have for you is that, do you feel like there's anything in today's society that mirrors or does the same job as what slave breakers were meant to do back in the slave days? When there's people that are in current day that go against the flow, what is like the slave breaking thing today? What gets them to like conform or stop doing what they're doing? So just a little information for you today. Thank you for listening.